Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Williamson. How's it going? I'm recording this Wednesday after practice. We got one more, which I assume will be a banger padded practice tomorrow. And then we all kind of disappear and the Steelers travel to Jacksonville. I'll preview that game for you at some point. Definitely review it in a big way. I'll be on the pregame show. I'll be on the pre-pregame show. I'm doing the postgame show. If you want to call in, we can chat. But I'm making this mostly a mailbag episode because I'm not going to record anything tomorrow. And then I'll preview the game, things I want to look for, and then review the game. But the biggest news out of camp here, dinner time on Wednesday, is Howard's going to miss some time. Week to week is, I think, the terminology they used, which is not surprising at all. He broke his pinky finger on his throwing hand. So this definitely sounds like a couple weeks. And we covered this heavily yesterday. It's a real bummer because really the best thing about Howard and the best thing about his development to me was going to be the preseason games. Get him a ton of action in the preseason games, way more than Rodgers, Rudolph, Skyler, of course. And now that's very much in jeopardy. I'm sure he won't play against the Jags. I don't know if we'll see him at all. So it would be great. Frankly, it'd be great to never see him during the season because your other guys are better and doing well. It would have been great to see him a ton in the preseason and be super excited about it, for the future, for the down low, for down the future, down the road. But that's in jeopardy. Now, Skyler gets a big bump in opportunity. I would imagine he plays a lot more now in the preseason. That doesn't really move the needle for me. That doesn't excite me all that much. I would imagine Rudolph gets a little bit more action just by necessity. Okay, he doesn't need it. I don't love it. I don't prefer he doesn't get hurt either. And Rodgers probably plays little to none. Now, I think it'll be telling if they sign another arm. Now, do they have enough faith that Skylar Thompson can at least orchestrate the second half preseason offenses so you can judge the other receivers and the offense as a whole? Maybe this decision doesn't come till after the Jacksonville game. See how he acclimates himself. But I also think in the next 24 or 48 hours, they might sign a quarterback. I don't think it'd be a big name guy. I don't think it's someone to compete with Rudolph for the two. I don't even have a list of names super handy, but Huntley just signed. Bridgewater just signed. I don't think it'd even be somebody as well known as that. But the guys that are young and cheap are on camp rosters right now. I'm definitely not trading for one because this is not going to be a super long-term thing. And I still think the quarterback plan is very much in place where next year you'll have Howard on his second season. You'll have Rudolph on his last year of his deal. And I think you'll have a first-round pick with the one getting all the attention and doesn't leave as much attention for Howard, of course. So the timing just stinks. What I said on the air today was, I wish he would have done this in week 2 in practice. You know what I mean? And because these preseason games being in jeopardy at this point is far from great. All right, some mailbag questions. My man Joey Bag of Donuts asked, if Caleb Johnson isn't ready, can Gainwell be the primary backup? I think the short answer is yes, in that he was Barkley's primary backup on a Super Bowl team. He is not a short yardage back, but he's capable in protection despite his size. He's a professional back. He's got really good feet. His receiving skills are more impressive than I thought. In person, I'm real impressed with what he's done as a receiver, a route runner, burst, explosion, setting guys up. So I like that quite a bit. It wouldn't be perfect. You'd love a Sermon or a Hull or somebody like that to at least show themselves. But when you say Caleb Johnson isn't ready, it would be a long shot for me to believe he's like inactive on game day week 1. Now, pass protection is going to be the key here. And we've seen some backs on backers, but we still don't have a lot to go off there. If he's a disaster in the preseason in pass protection, and I would imagine they test him heavily, get out there on passing downs. Why put Warren out there? You know what you're getting. Even why put Gainwell out there? You know what you're getting. So I think that will be very telling. But it would have to be an utter disaster for him to just be a zero on game day. Mark Miller asked, been meaning to ask, should we be concerned with the lack of work with the running game so far? For an offense that's predicated on the run, they sure don't seem to be working on it much. I 1,000% understand where you're coming from with this, but the CBA just doesn't lend itself to do that very well, to be honest. Like all those unpadded practice during the acclimation period, yeah, you can work on run fits and double teams, but it's at a different pace and you're not coming off the ball. And they did have a padded practice rained out. Again, I'm recording this Wednesday. I would think there'll be a lot of true run periods on Thursday, but this is something that's really going to have to work itself out in three preseason games, as well as the joint practice, of course, with Tampa coming up here in a couple of weeks, which is going to be really, really pivotal. So I see where you're concerned. Hey, it's a run-first offense, and they're not doing a lot of run. Is that making them a better team? I get it. It's just there aren't the opportunities there used to be, unfortunately. Lemieux 67, not sure where you're going with that, but okay. Is O-line performance and their stark lack of quality depth going to be the Achilles heel for the Steelers this year? Certainly could be. It certainly could be. Now today, I found it really interesting that a lot of the reps with the ones, they took the starting left guard, Siamalu, and Jones, the starting left tackle, out and put Anderson in at left guard, Cook in at left tackle with Aaron Rodgers, with the ones. Now, Siamalu, we know, gets rested, and Anderson's played more with the ones even than Isaac at this point because of injuries, of course. I don't know if that's an indictment on Jones. I don't know that's excitement about Cook. Probably a little of both. Certainly, I don't think that's a true competition for the left tackle spot. That would shock me. But I think Cook is having a pretty good camp. I like the way he moves. He's not the most powerful, beat-your-face Walter Jones type of player, but he's pretty agile in protection, and he's a decent athlete from what I've seen. So I don't know what to make of that, but I'm still concerned with the O-line depth. We've talked about a couple of the guys. I guess watching them day in, day out, I like them a little better. And the O-line in general is playing better now than they were a week ago or 10 days ago, as is the offense. But certainly I could write the story where Jones washes out, you have an injury, got to test the depth, and they're just consistently losing up front throughout the course of the season. And I think wide receiver is probably the weakest position on the team, obviously outside of Metcalf, but if you just narrow it down by position group. But I bet the one that keeps Omar up at night the most is, where is this O-line at? Who knows for sure? And I totally understand that. And yes, I'm concerned. But again, a lot of these questions, and I don't mean to be dancing around the answers, will be much, much clearer after this preseason game, let alone after 3 preseason games and a joint practice. To me, that's a really nice sample size to go off of. And heck, even after tomorrow's padded practice, I might feel better about things. So I have a feeling they're really going to bang on Thursday. My man Michael Odesso, who I met the other day, that was awesome. And I'm running out of reasons not to have Scotty Miller on the 53. Guy's just a football player. Same with Hurlman on practice squad. They've shown out all camp, it seems. Good to meet you, by the way, the other day. Yeah, it was awesome, Mike. Hurlman's really interesting. He just looks like that guy that's hard to cut. They've given him some backfield action. He's a prototypical, look into that how you want, slot type of guy, but he is physical. His reps keep going up. All the indications are, you watch camp and you know how teams think and act, that they like him more and more because they keep giving him more. I don't know if he can make the team or not, but boy, I'd love him to be on the practice squad and at camp next year. And frankly, maybe he surprises, people loved this guy at the other, the previous stops, his college and high school and all those type of things. Of course, high school. I mean, that goes without saying. Scotty Miller. Here's what I'm at on him too. Like, yeah, he always does the right thing. He's a good football player, as you mentioned, and he gets open with some consistency, even against the Steelers' top corners. Rodgers certainly seems to trust him. He's smart. He's got a little juice to him. He'll do gritty stuff without question. But, Michael, this happens every camp to me too. And you start watching him and you're like, okay, he's one of our 5 or 6 best receivers. And that might be true. But then you get to week 6 and you're playing against the Texans, the Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, whoever. And you say, yeah, he's a good player, but he's not giving us any kind of advantage. I mean, if that's the best you got, great. And I know that sounds really harsh. And frankly, it is really harsh. But he still doesn't have a very high ceiling. And by no means would I look at, and I'm not even saying this is what you're implying, that Scotty Miller is playing well enough that they don't have to look outside the organization for a wide receiver. I'd still love to find somebody that has game-changing ability, that keeps the defensive coordinator at least a 1 wink or 2 up at night. And I'm not saying Scotty Miller is the Allen Robinson classic, I want to play against that guy, but he's a lot closer to that than being your game day answer. So sometimes it's just, boy, I like him. I'm rooting for him. I don't hate him on game day, but I'm trying to win the whole thing here, and he's just not that kind of player. So, see what I'm saying? All right, everyone, I got to run. This will be my last one for a while out of my lovely dorm room, so it'll sound better from my basement. And we will be talking Steelers-Jags previewing here probably my next time I talk to you. All right, take care.